Hi, everybody. Hi, it's Esther Yang. Sorry, I didn't realize the clock, and then honestly, when I was on, I didn't even realize that I didn't have my makeup on. So I was running, and I said, "Oh, 1 more minute, 2 more minutes." Well, when you saw me like 2 minutes ago, I have no makeup. So yes, I put my makeup on in less than 30 seconds. Well, I don't use foundations anyway. So maybe one of these days when I do my show, I will show you about Esther Yang skincare. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the live. This is our first live Instagram. So either we're going to bomb it or we're going to be okay with it. We actually have like a couple thousand emails that we didn't really send out because we're trying to fine tune it. So for those of you that's wondering what happened to the election, we're still waiting for the absentee ballot. So one of my mentors just told me that even though there's like 99% reporting, you can check it online and in board elections. My friend just said, just wait until everything is certified. So I think we're like 726 votes away from being the winner. So we'll wait. Do we have like 5,500 absentee ballots? And so we have 5,500 absentee ballots, and I'm sure my tiny little race is like this tiny comparing to the mayor and to everyone else. So I'm sure by that time that, I'll just wait. So I'll wait till like the final for the elections. So today's guest, so that you guys know, right? So today is my first show, and it's because of what happened with Cosby. I just felt that I was so busy, with finishing the loose end for the campaign. Personally, because I'm a sexual assault survivor advocate, and my blood was boiling. What's happening with Cosby, and I don't know how he could have gotten away with it. I was very upset about it because, and I'll tell you guys more about it when Joyce is coming, like in like a few more minutes. Let me see if Joyce even, Joyce is not, so Joyce is not even here. So I don't know where Joyce is. So she's probably trying to get in, and she's done it before. So I don't know, where Joyce is. But Joyce wrote a book, and if Joyce is not on, then it's just you and me talking about Cosby, and you can ask any question about Cosby. The reason why we wanted to do consent was because I was pretty upset about what happened with Cosby. I don't know how that now Joyce is here. Yay, Joyce. So how do I make Joyce come in? I'm gonna have Jonathan help me because like Jonathan is next to me, and this is my first time, so I made like tiny mistakes. So in here, the plus button. All right, this one. And let's see. So I am going to try to view. Yeah.
So we're both here. And yes, the entire time you were talking, I was here.
Oh, that's why I was like, where's Joyce? And I said, and then
I was there. It just didn't, I guess, register on your device.
Oh, Joyce, I am so grateful that for my first show you're here. I was just, I know your blood is triple boiling. I know my blood is triple boiling with the Bill Cosby. I mean, Joyce, tell us. I mean, how can this happen, and how to avoid it from happening? I know you have like a whole gamut of stuff to talk.
Well, the interesting thing is that they got him out on a technicality that's dubious. The reality is that he probably did not have immunity. All of the evidence points to the fact that he did not have immunity, and yet the Supreme Court judges determined that he in fact was granted immunity. It's absurd. First of all, in the state of Pennsylvania, you have to have immunity in writing in order for your immunity to be valid. So if you got it in writing, then the attorney would have been able to produce that evidence that he had immunity. The attorney for Cosby could not produce any evidence that he had immunity. In fact, the only written documentation was that was a National Enquirer article that quoted Bruce Castor as saying that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania reserves the right to prosecute if needed. And that information completely flies in the face of the claim that Bruce Castor later made that he gave him immunity. Now, other legislators more recently, as a result of the Cosby case, actually created a bill to make it law that you have to have immunity in writing. But that's been on the books in Pennsylvania for years. So,
my confusion is that, I mean, I know some of the people that are watching, just for a few, like, don't get it. Like, so I think my understanding, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So Cosby attorney and the district attorney made a deal, supposedly, correct?
They're claiming that they had a deal. But listen, if your client is facing hard time for sexual assault, are you going to let that client incriminate themselves in a civil matter? Of course not.
Okay.
You would absolutely have them plead the fifth.
Right.
And in this instance, they told him they're claiming that they had immunity so that he wouldn't plead the fifth, and he admitted to conduct that is sexual assault. Now they're claiming that they can't use that admission because it was given under an immunity agreement. But an immunity agreement would not be made by an attorney with half a brain without getting it in writing. And there's absolutely nothing. I'm in a park, and a little boy is just sending a little.
That's okay.
Here we go. We got him on Instagram with his little ball. Anyway, so besides that, the reality is that this entire episode would not have happened if Pennsylvania correctly defined consent in its laws. And that's what that's what the Consent Awareness Network is about.
Just to rephrase, so Cosby got off because of technicality. He actually was guilty in the first court, and then the appellate just let it go because supposedly the attorney made a deal that if he admitted, then he would not be charged for X, Y, and Z.
That's what they claim, but there's absolutely no evidence to substantiate that. For judges to make a conclusion that disregards the tremendous effort that was made by the justice system.
I know. You know some of the witnesses. I know that testified. Yes. So now, what happened now? Can they go to we cannot appeal it anymore, right? That's it.
That's it.
Got off.
That's it.
And so
what we need to do,
I know we talk about the consent.
We need to take action.
Yeah. So I think there are a couple of things. So tell us about, I know that in New York, like we were working together on the consent law, and that's the A6540. So if anybody wants to know about what consent is, so Joyce really worked hard, or the group of us really worked hard to getting that law passed. And it's
introduced. It hasn't passed yet.
Yeah, it got it introduced. And I mean, to get it introduced, it's a whole other history thing. So it's introduced in New York. So if for those of you who want to know more about it, now this is about consent. So it's Bill A6540. So Joyce can say.
I can correct you. It's A6540A.
Oh, so it's.
There's an A on both sides of it.
Oh, so it's A6540A. So A is an apple on both sides.
There's A's. It's bookended by A's. The first A means assembly. The last A means amended, because we had some additional language, and we spoke to the LGBTQ.
It was introduced. So for the people that are not understanding, so it's introduced in the assembly because Assembly member Rebecca Seawright did it. Now it has to go to the Senate, and it's have a Senate.
In the Senate.
So now we're waiting to pass it both for the Assembly and the Senate, correct, Joyce?
That's correct.
Okay, so now maybe we can define what really, like what you did on the tech talks. I know you did a tech talk when yes means no. Maybe you can like explain it better what consent really means,
Sure.
in the
Consent means freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement.
so there's
And
no confusion. It's freely given. Like I freely giving it to Joyce, Joyce freely giving it to me. So there's no confusion. There's no like, well, he said, she said. That the problem in New York and in all the place, and Joyce probably can say that because that the law is not passed, right?
okay, so freely given is not the only thing that denotes whether or not consent takes place. It's also whether you're well informed.
Right.
If someone's using force, fear, or fraud in order to take your property, they're a thief, aren't they?
Right, right, right.
And if someone uses force, fear, or fraud to take your body, they're sexually assaulting you. They're not seducing you, right?
Right.
But our laws don't say so. The word consent appears 162 times in penal code without a single definition.
So
So,
penal code is for those of people that don't know, is the criminal things. It's the code that the judges go through.
yeah, the criminal statutes under which a
Yeah.
person can be arrested. That's the laws. And if you break those laws, then you can be arrested. So if you use force or fear, then the person could acquiesce. That means agree under duress. But acquiescence is not consent. It's not freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement. And if you use trickery or fraud, you're not consenting either, because it's not informed or knowledgeable agreement, right? So if somebody tricked you out of your money, like Bernie Madoff did, Bernie
Yes.
Madoff died in jail because he tricked people into giving them their money. Even though those people literally ran after Bernie Madoff and said, please take my money, take my money. But
But it was
they weren't
fraud.
well informed. He
Yeah.
he lied to them. He tricked them. He took their money under by a malicious means called fraud, and so therefore they were not consenting. They were assenting. They were nodding their heads. They were saying,
Right.
"Please take my money." Just like what happens when people are tricked into sexual contact, right? You don't know that that person is tricking you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be tricked, right?
Right.
So when they're tricking you, you're not knowledgeable and informed. And if they're forcing you or if they're threatening you, then you're acquiescing, you're not consenting. So if you're assenting, which is agreeing on the face of it, but you've been tricked into that, into
Well, in
consenting,
Cosby's case, he was putting stuff in their
yes,
drinks,
so they
right?
don't have the ability to reason, right? You
Right.
have the
Because
ability
they
to
were
reason.
drugged
That's
out.
right. You need to reason, be able to reason properly in order to consent, and that's why your agreement has to be based on knowledgeable and informed uh, information. Just like when you're taking your COVID shot, right?
Right.
When you take your COVID vaccination, Nuremberg Code tells us that consent has to be freely given, knowledgeable, and informed. And so when you go for that COVID vaccination, they give you a form to fill out that tells you all the terrible things that could be happening to you as a result of that COVID vaccination. And that's because Nuremberg Code was created as a law that requires that when you go for a medical treatment or medical experiment, you have to be able to consent, freely give knowledgeable and informed agreement. So there is precedence to this. There is law, there is code, and we need to make sure that our penal codes define consent clearly to protect us in all crimes, sexual assault, rape, sex trafficking, revenge porn. There's a whole battery of different crimes that the foundation of them is that the person did not consent. So not only have we introduced consent in New York to define sexual assault, we've introduced consent to define, we've introduced the definition to define consent in all of penal code, because consent never changes depending on what you're consenting to. It is always freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement. So
It's hard to believe, but Joyce, really, I mean, it's hard to believe that it's not even here, it's not even passing, right? I mean, it's hard to believe that New York doesn't even have the simple thing about consent, about freely given. But where are we now? I mean, what do you need us to do to make this happen? Because it's introduced, but you know, it can be introduced till the moon is
Exactly.
orange.
Exactly. So there are things that our listeners can do. First of all, they should watch my TEDx talk. It's called Your Consent. I'm sorry, it's not. It's called When Yes Means No.
When
I
yes
get them
means
confused. That's my book.
so
Okay.
Joyce's TED Talks is when you know,
When
when
yes
yes
means
means
no,
no.
the truth about consent. When
Yeah.
yes means no, the truth about consent is my TEDx
And
talk.
your book, you want
My book
go ahead.
is Your Consent, the Key to Conquering Sexual Assault. Because that's
And
exactly what this is. Me Too and
you
Just
can get
Stop.
that in Amazon.
What's that? You
I
get
said you can get that in Amazon. So,
absolutely.
but what do we need to? What can we do? What do we need to do? And anybody that wants to ask questions, just put the questions away. I mean, type in the question. What do we need to do now to avoid what happened with, you know, with Cosby to not happening in New York?
We need to we need to pass this legislation. So you need to everybody needs to write to their legislator and CC us. Our email address is info at consentawareness.net. So please write to your legislator and tell them, I'm your constituent. Please, to do that, we need to sign our change.org petition. Our change.org petition is a bit.ly, and I hope that you'll be able to put it on your on this Instagram when you on your
Yeah, we'll
post.
put it on the YouTube too.
Yeah,
We'll put it up.
put the
Well,
link there. They can just go to my link tree on my bio page, and they can they can tap Bill petition. And actually, that's the bit.ly. If they want to put the URL address in there, it's http colon hashtag bit.ly hashtag Bill petition.
Bill
So
petition. So that's on a consent. So I
sign
think
the
somebody just make a comment that anyone, Jonathan, if you want to type it in, you can too. So anyone can sign. So it doesn't have to be New York. But when you're not your legislator, what Joyce is saying that write to your assembly member and write to your senator in
yeah,
New York to make sure that it's already introduced, so it's out there. Now they all have to agree to pass it.
right.
So we all need everyone to say to your assembly member, to everyone, and then CC Joyce. Is there a generic letter in your? Is there a generic
You
letter
can
in
go
your?
on my you can go on our consentawareness.net um, uh, web page, and yes, we have a post that gives people sample letters. I think that my chief of staff, Nina Lucas, is on this
Yeah, thank you so much, Nina. It's so
Instagram,
good for you to be on.
and she'll type it in there because I don't have my reading glasses on and I can't see anything that's being typed below me.
Yeah,
So
so Nina,
yes,
feel free to type in whatever you need to type in for the where can everybody sign the petitions, where everybody can for the letter to and where they need to CC you, you know, or
and
you can
also Carl Heastie is
just
the uh,
call me city speaker.
Carl Heastie is the
So if you don't know anything about New York State speaker is Carl Heastie.
Carl Heastie is the Speaker of the House. Right now, this bill is in the Codes Committee, and that's headed by Jeff Dinowitz. Uh,
Yeah.
Carl Heastie and Jeff Dinowitz really control what goes onto the floor for discussion. And so, if people write to Carl Heastie and write to Jeff Dinowitz to get this out of codes and onto the floor, that's the next step in moving this bill forward in the Assembly. And likewise, write to the head of the Codes Committee in the Senate and write to the Speaker in the Senate, the Majority
So
Leader in the Senate.
So if you can write to the speaker for Carl Heastie for the assembly and speaker for the Senate, if
Yeah.
that's like an action to do. So I will also once we're done, I'll post it as well in the social media. So does anyone has any questions? I know like we have a few minutes left. If anyone has any question, you can put in the chat. if you want to ask questions. If not, Joyce and I will carry on conversations, you know, to do whatever it is that we need to do. So we need to pass the bill in the we need to pass the bill in the Assembly. We need to pass the bill in the Senate. The
And
call
then the
for
governor
action.
has to sign it.
I'm
And then,
sorry.
and then the governor has to sign it.
Oh, can they also can they email to the governor too?
Absolutely. By all
So
means.
I know the governor is having problem right now, but again, with this consent issue, he might not even want to sign it. But we can
Quite
still. I
frankly,
mean, women vote,
quite
so I
frankly,
think
quite
we need
frankly,
to.
I'm sorry.
No, no, it's okay. I'm just saying, like, women votes. I think we need to be mindful that we have that power, and I think we need to start voting people out of office if they're not supporting for our causes, right? So I think that's
100%.
really, yeah, that's really 100. You know, like if you're listening to me and you're not registering to vote, you must register to vote, and you need to know like that power of vote is, and that you need to start collecting people like Joyce and I, like-minded, so that we can vote as a pack. So it's really important that women need to protect women. So just to rephrase everybody, write to your assembly member. And if you don't know your assembly member, you can actually Google them. You can actually write to all the assembly. But the most important one is the speaker for the assembly, speaker for the Senate, because if the bill's already introduced and Joyce and us and everybody else has worked really hard for it to be introduced, and now we need help to get it to the last push.
Exactly.
And
Now,
so,
all of this information, including their phone numbers and their email addresses, is on our webpage. So
okay,
it's very easy to find, and I'm sure Judith's
can
going
you
to
tell
post
us
up
the
here.
web? Can you tell us the website again, Joyce?
It's consentawareness.net.
Okay, so everybody got that? It's consentawareness.net.
And
So everything is in there. All their phone number, their email, so no excuse, right?
right,
So everybody needs to start doing that. And I'll make sure that I will put that in the social media.
right.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for joining us.
Thanks for
So
having
just
me. I'm
Oh
committed
yeah,
to
so
getting
we
this
by
message
the way,
across.
we're doing a dollar campaign to help Super Happy Healthy Kids, and also for AAPI for Change. So if you have a dollar to give Super Happy Healthy Kids, great. If you have a dollar for AAPI for Change, great. If you have $2 for either one of them, awesome. If you don't have any money, don't worry about it. Just share far and wide, because we're helping to change the world. But forget the not-for-profit for a second, but make sure that you sign the letter for consentawareness.net. Bye,
Excellent.
everybody. I hope to see you
Bye-bye.
next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Have
Thank
a
you,
great one.
Esther. Bye-bye.
Bye.